We're back with our roundtable of journalists. Brian Ellison, senior news analyst for KCUR, and KNBC9 political reporter Michael Mahoney. All right, gentlemen, first off, any surprises to what you just heard today?
I don't know if they were surprises. I mean, I think it was notable how hard you and Eric had to work to tease out some of the differences, but there were some. I think we heard, for example, Vicki Schmidt's opposition to school vouchers sort of standing out apart from the pack. I think we heard a little more willingness to be critical of the decision to support data centers from those who were not Ty Masterson and were not part of leading that effort in the legislature. But for the most part, what we saw was candidates who are largely aligned along policy issues, and where the real differences are going to be matters of style and experience and background that they bring to the office.
You know, the thing that stood out to me was Scott Schwab's discussion on data centers and artificial intelligence. And he said this throughout the campaign, that one of the reasons data centers are important to Americans in general, and specifically to Kansas, is because of the threat from a national security standpoint as well as a technological standpoint about the rise of and proliferation of data centers and AI in the Republic of China. And it's an interesting 50,000 foot view of this that has not been discussed that much in this race, how to look at this in an international and national perspective.
Right, a lot of it's been about just who would control regulations and that sort of thing.
And he votes for local control. He supports local control on that decision too.
Yeah. In this Republican race, one thing we have not talked about today is endorsements. There's a big one for Senator Ty Masterson from President Trump. How much weight does that carry in such a large field of candidates?
It carries a lot, especially in a conservative state like Kansas, where Donald Trump has performed very well every time that he's been on the national ballot. And Masterson can rightly say, okay, this is a big endorsement. And an example of why that's a big endorsement is the fact that one of the candidates that was in this race, former Governor Jeff Collier, dropped out immediately after the Trump endorsement of Masterson. So, you know, it's got a lot of clout.
Even with that endorsement, the other candidates in the race have largely jockeyed to show how loyal and faithful to the Trump message they are. Each of them trying to claim some piece of it in their own work, whether it's on abortion or on reducing government waste. But one of the things that does stand out to me in this race is the interesting position that puts Scott Schwab in. Scott Schwab is the top election official for Kansas through many years of both Trump administrations, has defended the integrity of elections in Kansas. That is at odds with the message coming from the White House that elections are all at risk and that there's a lot of fraud and a lot of forgeries and such. And so in that sense, Scott Schwab has to work extra hard to say that he's on the same page as the president. He does say that he supports some of the election security measures the president is now supporting. We'll see if that has any impact on voters. Remember, it's only going to take 25 to 30% of all the Republican voters to win this 7-person race.
Right.
So that endorsement might in fact be enough to push Masterson across the line.
And to reinforce that, not only is that he at odds with the White House administration inside of the executive branch of Kansas government, the Attorney General, Chris Kobach, has been very critical of election security in the state of Kansas. Not a lot of it has been found or discovered, and Schwab defends the process while down the street the Attorney General has been attacking him.
Right, so you have a strong, hardline conservative endorsing Ty Masterson, but then again, we've had a moderate Democrat win the last 2 times in Kansas, so we'll have to see how it all shakes out on Election Day.